Seong Hui-Ju, portrayed by IU, is the CEO of Castle Beauty and the daughter of the Castle Group's founder. Despite her impressive career and family wealth, Hui-Ju is constantly held back by the fact that she was born out of wedlock to a commoner mother, which shuts her out of elite social circles and the royal marriage market. That gap between how hard she has worked and how little credit she gets is what pushes her forward in everything she does. Personality-wise, Hui-Ju is bold, fiercely competitive, and completely unapologetic about who she is. She's built a tough, cold outer shell over years of being looked down on and pushed aside. But underneath that, she is warm and deeply passionate. She can be easy to root for and hard to like at the same time. And that makes exactly what makes her so interesting to watch. She does not wait around for things to happen, she goes and makes them happen herself, even if that means breaking the rules. What Hui-Ju brings to the story is bigger than her own personal goals. She directly challenges the idea that where you come from should decide where you end up. Her most daring move is backing Grand Prince Eon into a corner with a contract marriage proposal, a plan that is both reckless and incredibly calculated. She is the force that shakes the palace up and pushes every character around her to ask whether the old ways still make sense. Grand Prince Eon, played by Byeon Woo-seok, is in a really difficult spot in the royal family. As the second-born son, he has spent his whole life being pushed aside, expected to stay quiet and out of the way while everyone else held power. After his brother the king passes away, he steps in as a regent for his young nephew, which immediately draws uncomfortable comparisons to historical ambitious prince from the past, and puts him right in the crosshairs of people who see him as a threat. Eon's personality is all about holding back. He comes across as cool and unbothered, but there is clearly a lot of simmering under the surface. He can also be genuinely sweet, especially when it comes to looking after his young nephew. His calm presence is so striking that even the queen mother admits he outshines the crown just by being in the same room. He has played it safe his entire life, staying invisible to survive, but it has come at a real personal cost. What Eon brings to the story is the slow unraveling of a man who has kept himself locked down for too long. When Hui-Ju shows up, someone with the same roots and the same drive, but who chooses to fight where he chose to stay quiet. She becomes the thing that finally breaks through his walls. When she lays out her contract marriage proposal, he does not back down. He looks her in the eye and tells her to prepare to become the Grand Prince's wife. That moment is where the show's biggest question comes to life. What does a man do when he finally stops hiding? Min Jong-woo, played by No Sang-hyun, is the prime minister and the eldest son of the Min family, a family so deeply tied to Korean politics that it has produced multiple prime ministers over generations. He sits at the top of the political world, but his personality is nothing like what you would expect from someone in his position. He is charming, easy to be around, and surprisingly down to earth. The kind of person who wins people over at a local market just as easily as he does in the government meetings. On the surface he's warm, but underneath he is always calculating. What makes him interesting is the pull between his friendship and ambition. His bond with Grand Prince Eon runs deep and goes back a long way, but his reputation as a migratory bird, someone who switches sides depending on which way the political wind is blowing, tells you that even his closest relationships are not safe from that instinct. When Hui-Ju enters Eon's life, it throws the balance of their friendship off completely and puts Jong-woo in a tough spot where loyalty and self-interest start to clash. Every scene he is in carries that quiet tension of someone who is always weighing up what things are really worth to him. Yoon Yi-rang, portrayed by Gong Song-yoon, is the queen mother and someone who was essentially built for the role from birth. Her family has produced 4 queens and she was raised with one purpose in mind: to be the perfect royal wife. Every feeling kept in check, every reaction thought through, every public moment carefully managed to show exactly the right image. She was never really allowed to just be a person, but there is real feeling buried under all that. Before she was betrothed to the crown prince, she crossed paths with Grand Prince Eon at the Royal Academy and connected with him in a way she never expected. He understood her in a way few others did. She turned away from that and chose a throne anyway, bearing it all under duty and obligation. Now as queen mother, she finds herself having to bring down the very person she once felt closest to. Not just to protect her son's place on the throne, but maybe to prove herself that the choices she made were worth it. She's not just a villain chasing power, she is someone who gave up everything the role demanded and is now fighting to make sure none of it was for nothing. In a lot of ways, she is a warning, a glimpse of what Hui-Ju and Eon could turn into if they let the system win. Choi Hyun, played by Yoo Soo-bin, is Grand Prince Eon's closest aide and someone whose loyalty goes beyond just doing his job. He was abandoned as a child at the palace gates and taken in by Eon personally, and that one act of kindness shaped everything about who he became. He comes across as bright and easygoing, but underneath that is a fierce protective side that he reserves entirely for Eon. Away from that formality of the palace, he drops all the titles and speaks to the prince like a real person. Honest, a little blunt, and genuinely caring in a way that cuts through all the royal noise. Choi Hyun matters to the story because he shows the side of Eon that the palace is not built to let anyone see. He is living proof that Eon is someone worth being devoted to, not because of his title, but because of who he actually is as a person. Do Hae-jung, played by Leon, is Hui-Ju's chief secretary at Castle Beauty. Having grown up overseas, she sees the world very differently from everyone around her. To her, social class is just something you're born with, like a blood type, and has no real bearing on what someone is worth. That outlook means she genuinely does not fully get why Hyo-ju is so driven by the pain of where she came from, and that gap between them creates a subtle but real tension. Even so, her support for Hyo-ju is completely genuine. She is all in on her boss's plans, even the ones that look completely reckless from the outside. In a show that is heavy with court politics and old grudges, Do Hae-jung brings a lightness that keeps things from feeling too suffocating. She is Hyo-ju's steadiest supporter and the warm, grounded presence that the story genuinely needs. Yi-yoon, played by Kim Un-ho, is Grand Prince Eon's nephew and the current ruler of the kingdom, in title at least. He was thrust onto the throne after his father's sudden death, with no real say in any of it, and is far too young to hold the weight of everything that comes with the crown. He is small, a little helpless, and completely surrounded by adults who all have their own agendas about what his reign should look like. There is a quiet innocence to him that makes the political scheming happening all around him feel a little unsettling. His presence in the story is important because he is the reason everything is so high stakes. His mother Yi-rang is tearing people apart to protect his throne, and his uncle Eon is stepping into a role that puts a target on his own back just to keep the boy safe. He does not need to do much to carry weight in the story. The fact that everyone is either fighting for him or fighting around him says everything.